Hey everybody, we've been away from the house for the last 5 days doing a little bit of a road trip down to see my nana, so we're catching up on our meal prep today. A question that a lot of you asked about was meat. Does my baby need to eat meat? When do I introduce it? How do I introduce it? And a lot of different questions like that. So today Kai and I, hey Bubba, are going to talk all about meat while he plays with Steve the donkey down there. So there are a lot of factors as to why our little bubs need to be consuming meat or a form of protein, and that needs to happen from about the age of 6 months, which in our culture this isn't really included as one of the first foods to consume for a baby, but it is just so important. He's just laughing at me. So the reason we want to be introducing a form of protein, a form of meat, is because of baby's iron levels. So in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, the baby is storing a lot of iron in its body for later use, for after birth. What we do know is about 42% of pregnant women are actually low in iron to begin with, and that is largely because baby is sucking a lot of that out of us, but that can actually impact on the baby not having enough stores to begin with. So storage of iron. Then what happens during your birth process or after birth can be another factor that impacts on your baby's iron levels to begin with. So your baby needs to have gone full term and be fully grown to actually have enough iron in their system to begin with. And another impact is when the umbilical cord was actually clamped. So there's something called delayed cord clamping, and that is where you wait about 60 seconds or until the placenta actually stops pulsing before you cut the umbilical cord. About 1/3 of the baby's blood is actually in the umbilical cord and the placenta, so if that's cut prematurely, then the baby's missing out on that huge dose, and therefore obviously iron is going to be affected too. Unfortunately, there are some situations where that is out of your control. For example, if you've had a C-section, then the cord is going to be clamped early. So, we can't change what's happened, but we just use that as to knowledge as to what we need to do post-birth to recuperate the baby's iron levels. So once bub is born, they have about 6 months worth of stored iron in their little bodies. So iron is so important for our immune system and immune regulation. It's important for cognitive and motor development, circulation of oxygen and nutrients, and just so many things. So obviously it's very important nutrient to get in. So from 6 months, you need to be including some iron-rich foods into baby's diet. Now, unfortunately, I don't agree that a plant-based diet is going to support iron levels for most of the population, particularly bubbies. We know from even meat sources of iron, we're actually only absorbing about 25% of that iron. So when we're looking at plants, the iron is already really low, so that means we're absorbing very little. So meat sources are where it's at for anybody that needs to top up your iron. A plant-based diet is not going to cure a deficiency. So what we used to get Kai's iron levels back up were organic chicken livers. It's not something, again, we don't really eat a lot of organ meats in this day and age anymore, but it's one of the best first foods for a baby. So the livers are really rich in iron, a really absorbable form of iron. It's an easy protein to break down. And it's also really rich in vitamin A, which is often negatively talked about in regards to pregnancy and also health of babies. But vitamin A actually helps regulate the amount of iron that's released from the liver, as well as immunity and a billion other things. So livers are where it's at, and it was our choice for his first iron-rich food. It's important that the livers are organic livers. Our liver is involved, and even a little chicken's liver is involved in breaking down toxins that are in the body and in the environment. So if it's not grown organically, there could be all kinds of nasty stuff going through that little chicken's body and through its liver. So it needs to be organic. If you can't get your hands on organic livers, then I would leave the livers completely and just move on to an organic form of meat. So what we did, I kind of made a baby pate. I cooked up the livers with a bit of grass-fed butter and a touch of salt, and then I pureed it froze it, and then I just put small amounts of that into Kai's vegetable dish, into his savoury meal each day. Started with lunchtime, and now he has that for his dinner. Some vegetables, a little bit of liver, and some healthy fat in there too. So there's always the question of how much to feed them. And I like to kind of look at ratios, because this is suitable for adults as well. So if we're looking at the size of your meal, about a quarter of that meal should be dedicated to your proteins. So same for little Bubby. If they're having half a cup, and it's just a really small portion of protein or of the iron-rich food that you've chosen to go in there. So I hope that's really helpful. So yes, babies need meat. They need meat, they need liver, they need some kind of protein that's rich in iron from about the age of 6 months. So get on that train. Today I'm actually cooking up some venison for Kai. Venison's a really lean animal protein, rich in iron, rich in B vitamins, and a really high source of CoQ10, which is good for our nervous system and our heart development. So enjoy.